Hello, everyone. Hello. So good to see everyone connected. I am so happy that you have made a decision to navigate the unseen with me. I am Erica Savage, and I'm so happy to have you all here. We're going to get started in just a couple of moments here. I see a couple of people have definitely let us know where they're from. So, as you do join, please do drop in the chat who you are, what your name is, where you're from, so we can make sure to shout you out. We got a few people on, so thank you so much for joining. This is definitely going to be a robust conversation, and I'm just so super happy to talk about how we, in fact, do navigate the unseen. So we got my girl, Honey, the host of the Reese Colbert Show on Sirius XM channel 126 every Saturday, 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hey, Reese, checking in from DC. So glad to have you on, sis. Bev Bryce. Hey, Bev. I feel like I see you in the comments. So I feel like, we kind of know each other a little bit. Thank you so much for joining. She is checking in from Cali. So glad to have you. Hey, Wendy Garvin Mayo. Y'all know this is my girl. Wendy Garvin Mayo is a fantastic nurse practitioner and also the founder creator of the Stress Blueprint. So happy to have you on, sis, and my partner in some projects. So glad to have you on, checking in from Connecticut, honey. Derica. Hey, Derica. Our names kind of like are alike a little bit there. Derica Sample White. Thank you so much for checking in, honey, from Houston, Texas. I will be in Houston very, very shortly. So hold it down for us, sis. I hope the weather is cooperating a little bit more for you all there, particularly as we start moving into autumn and fall. Krista, hey Krista, we got Krista Solomon. She is checking in, honey, from my great state of Georgia by way of Macon. So good to see you. Thank you so much for connecting, Krista. So glad to have another peach on, honey. Miss Priscilla Smith. Hey, Miss Priscilla, I know exactly where Elizabeth City, North Carolina is. She is checking in. Thank you so much for joining. So glad to have you. Y'all already know, honey, this is my boo. This is my business bestie, honey, that is checking in from straight out of, honey, Washington, D.C., honey, living right there in the city. My homie, the founder of Power and Pearls Enterprise and Power and Pearls Boutique, the one and only Tanya Sloans, my girl, my boo. So glad to have you on. Thank you so much for joining. And Derica said it's 106, honey. Well, praise the Lord, child. Oh my goodness. I have not seen temperatures like that in quite some time. But stay cool. Stay cool. Absolutely, Sloan. Straight out of there. Again, I am so happy to have you all join today. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. And as people do join and connect, we absolutely have the tools that they need. So while you all continue to kind of get acclimated in the room with one another, I want you to, in the comments, just tell me one thing that you're looking to get out of this. Just share one thing you're looking to get out of this. And if it's something that you're currently doing, that's amazing. If you want to see what you're currently doing go up even more, you can share that as well. But do put in the chat because we are community here. What's one thing that you're looking forward to getting out of this? Rosalind Clements. Hi, Rosalind. Checking in from the Research Triangle, Durham, North Carolina. So glad to have you on. And what we're doing right now, Rosalind, is we're talking about and sharing one thing that we're looking to get out of this online conversation that we have today. My boo Reese says that practical steps to improve her well-being. Wendy says that to enhance her awareness. Sloan says some tips for dealing with the impact of trauma. All of these are Powerful, powerful things you're sharing. Krista says some tools to deal with everyday life, the unexpected. Absolutely. Bev says to understand how to improve brain health and how to optimize my brain. I certainly appreciate all of you all for sharing that. And so I am hoping that it was really my intention that as I share, that what I am in fact sharing will in some way impact what you have been so kind to share in the comments. So let's go ahead and get started with navigating the unseen. And this is going to be a virtual discussion about ways the unseen manifests and small steps to change. So I always like to start out with sharing a little bit around who I am. I never want to make the assumption that everyone knows who I am. So in the previous work that I did, I was a financial analyst for nearly 10 years in federal government. And in that, I did all of the things that would normally go along with working in finance. It was me and two other women in the accounting cell. And so was tasked with constantly engaged in Excel spreadsheets, providing numbers and briefing at that time in our command, a two-star general in the director's monthly, and then performing something called the triannual review, which was when everyone had to send us pertinent documents so that we could then report that out to the comptroller. I then was offered a position here in the DC area to work as a political executive at a political consulting and data management firm, manage international campaigns. And one of the things that I really enjoyed out of all of the work that we did, both in elections, both in, I managed international campaigns, did COVID work. The one thing that the shining thing that I'm most proud of is that I worked with the Pope, a member of the council, a lifetime member actually of the Council of Foreign Relations, a member of Congress to help free a political prisoner that was being held in Juba, South Sudan, one of the worst prisons. And so that is a picture of me with security details when I was out of country for about 10 years. So that is a little bit of my background. I am also a mom of an amazing, amazing 24-year-old man who is currently living out of country, and exponentially proud of him every single day. And that changed. A lot of what I identified, what I am, I also have a strong sense of adventure, have traveled a lot, used to fly Cessna 172s and Piper 161s, which are small aircraft, but I also surfed. So always had this sense of adventure at my core. And that shifted dramatically when on March 15th, 2021, I was traveling for work and was hit twice from behind by an 18-wheel truck. Of the numerous injuries that I sustained, the injury that was most significant was a moderate traumatic brain injury, which left me with the functionality of a toddler. And in that, my prefrontal cortex, which is housed the executive functioning that is reasoning, logic, emotional management, was greatly compromised. And so, not long after that accident, it was about a couple of weeks later that my birthday was up, and I actually recorded a video. And in that video that I recorded, you could hear my speech had shifted dramatically, had slowed down, was very difficult to walk, was unable to read, not able to tolerate being around more than a couple of humans at one time. It was a life changing injury. So, sharing that to let you know that as we broach this topic, specifically talking about navigating the unseen, that I definitely have some experience in that. And so, as we move forward, you all have shared, and I really honor what you have shared around what is the one thing that you're looking to shift? What is the one thing that you're looking to get out of this particular online conversation that we're having? Um, I put in the chat um, three three hashtags so that as we have this conversation, as you're making notes, if you are making notes, I would love for you to share on social media what resonated with you. So the hashtag that I created so that you can just copy and paste from out of the comments, navigating the unseen, Erica Savage, and being seen on Sunday. And so whatever jewel, whatever diamond comes out for you, whatever aha piece that you have, would love for you to share that on social media. And so during our time together, what we're going to discuss are three specific things. These three specific things that we are going to be discussing are the critical areas that inform the unseen, their impact on our brains and their manifestations, and then how we reframe the brain and practice making change or changes. So before we do that, I want to do a bit of a poll, right? I know Reese is a data girl. She talked about it yesterday on the show. It's very evidence based. So want to do a little bit of information gathering. So um, I want you to, in the comment, however many of these apply to you, right? I want you to look over all of these things. So if one, two, three, four, five, six, and seven apply to you, put in the chat all of the numbers, right? No judgment zone. We're here so that we could actually create a space where we will heal, right? So I want you to, in the chat, how many of these actually apply to you. And let me also add this caveat. I mean, more than three times out of the week. So more than three times out of the week, if you skip breakfast, you would put one, two, three, four, five, six, and seven. So if it's less than three times a week, you don't have to worry about recording that particular activity. But if it's more than three times a week, I want you to make sure you put the number in the chat. So I'm going to give us a couple of minutes to do that. Again, remember, this is information gathering, this is data gathering, and I'm going to tell you why as we get closer to the end of our conversation. So I'll give you a moment to look over those and then to add those in the chat with your name. Okay, I see Bev, Priscilla, and Derica have made their numbers known in the chat. Definitely appreciate that. And Rosalind, I also see what you're saying. What you're looking to get out of this is how to discern the unseen and how it shows up. Your nephew has brain trauma. Oh, Rosalind, definitely sending you and your family significant love and light and healing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, just one more minute and we'll continue on. Thank you all so much for sharing. All right. Thank you all for sharing. Definitely appreciate that. It's definitely a stilling moment when I do that with my clients. So thank you for sharing. So these are the three areas that we're going to cover, specifically eating, sleeping, and breathing. And before we move into that, the reason this photo that I chose, I wasn't able to gather specific information on where the photo specifically is from when I did a bit of research around it. But as we move into these things, I want for all of us to know that there are things that really have been passed along to us that do impact the unseen. So when we think about systemic issues that are talked about, not only in our family, but what we see have been written about, what we see around news articles, systemic issues like racism, what we've seen specifically that's happened in the courts around affirmative action as it relates to specific areas of education and things of that nature. We do understand that there are systems in place, even systems in place to dissuade or keep people from being homeowners. All of these things are things that we know that are unseen. We can't specifically touch a system, but we know this system is engaging us. And then this photograph, the transatlantic slave trade, whenever I take a moment and I look at this, understanding that these were actual real human beings and having been to the slave castles in Ghana, and having been in that space and being unable to speak for the 4 hours that I was on tour there, understanding the magnitude of having been in the space where chattel slavery actually was initiated, and the different torture chambers, the different areas that men and women both individually, collectively, were made to engage before they were actually on the boat gives me such a greater appreciation for how the unseen does impact us, even those things that were passed down. So I want us to be grounded a bit in understanding when I'm talking about navigating the unseen, there are parts of what we experience that are have been genetically passed down through trauma. And what I have also discovered in these three specific areas that I'm going to discuss with you, that there are small steps that we can take in order to help navigate the way we experience the unseen into a way that we're actually able to notice when we're in these spaces. And then there are automatic modalities that we're able to engage in order to bring our body, bring our mind, bring our spirit back to a place of being able to operate well. And so, those three areas that I just named, eating, sleeping, and breathing, those are things that are common to human function, right? And eating includes drinking as well. You're thinking about drinking fluids like water. Those are things that are definitely required within the human experience. I'm going to walk us through what it means to actually have that impact. So, when we're talking about eating, sleeping, and breathing, I want to start us with specifically around eating. When we're talking about eating, there's many of you mentioned, and that was one of the 1 to 2 things that I put first up in the chat around when you're eating. Are you eating while you're working? Are you eating while you're scrolling your device? Are you eating while you're driving your car? Meaning that are you completing other tasks while you're actually not only feeding your body, you're feeding your organs, you're feeding cells, you are feeding your mind. So when we think about eating, uh, eating actually should be something that we actually enjoy, enjoying the textures of the food, enjoying especially the taste of the food, and noticing how we're actually digesting the food. There's this clip from SpongeBob, because my son used to watch it when he was younger, and it was Patrick. And when Patrick he was sitting in a chair and he was watching television, and he kept eating this candy bar, and he looked around and he asked SpongeBob, like, where did my candy bar go? What happened to my candy bar? And SpongeBob is like, you ate it. But he didn't believe that he'd eaten it because he was actually focused on something else while he was actually engaging in the activity of eating. So also when you think about, for those of you all who go to a movie theater or you like to sit down and watch a program, or a movie while you're at home, if you have snacks around you, you can sometimes eat a lot more, eat a large bucket of popcorn, eat a lot more from that snack board than you would have maybe normally, because you're actually feeding yourself at the pace with which you're engaging in the activity. So, what I often talk about in a way that actually helps us optimize our gut health, which is our second brain, right? Which also helps us optimize the way that we digest our food, that has big play in how we actually feel after we eat, right? Is actually a practice called mindful eating. Okay, so write that down, mindful eating. Erica, what is mindful eating? Mindful eating is actually the practice of being very mindful of what you eat, just as the word says. So, mindful eating would look like, whether you have a table, or if it's the chair or a couch or a lounge that you sit at, while you're at that specific eating area, you don't have any devices on. So perhaps your cell phone is put away, that's not in arm's reach, that's not where there's light flashing where you would be able to see those particular, see the phone flashing. It's not on vibrate either, so you're not picking that up, right? If you have a window that you're actually positioned so that you're looking out of the window, right? So what you're actually doing is you're telling yourself that this is the activity that I am engaged in. I'm not watching television. I'm not entertaining anyone else. This is an activity to feed my mind, body, and spirit. This is an activity to ensure that I am actually aiding my digestion in a positive way. Mindful eating allows you to, at that time, be very cognizant of the food that you're actually putting in your mouth, and ensuring that you're chewing, so that you're chewing well enough that your body actually digests and breaks down your food much better. It is called mindful eating. So that is a practice that I encourage my clients to do. And what they actually report out is, after about a week or so of practicing mindful eating, is that, number one, they feel much better. The second thing is that they're noticing that they're not having some of the issues that perhaps they had before. And there's, some issues, like when you're thinking about in terms, acid reflux, do come from the foods that we may be eating as well. However, in terms of digestion, in terms of not feeling sluggish, in terms of feeling overall better after they've completed a meal, because they've actually been very cognizant of themselves as they were eating, they've actually reported better changes in their digestion. So mindful eating is a way to significantly improve um, the way that we navigate the unseen, because we don't actually see the output a lot of times, but we oftentimes experience the output of when we've eaten really fast, or when we've swallowed something and perhaps it didn't go down the right pipe, as we have said. We actually have those experiences. Another thing that eating does when we think about brain health and for overall body is that sometimes we're actually able to pay attention to the things that we actually don't like. I've had clients report back to say that, I actually was eating something, or eating more than I actually would have eaten, and realized that that's not something that I like. I was actually conditioned to eat the way that I eat because Perhaps he came from a family that said, you need to finish the plate. Or they discovered that, wow, I'm actually filling out too much of my plate. This is more food than I actually need to be consuming in one sitting. It is being very cognizant of the choices that we've been making, that we've made a lot of times because of how we've been conditioned. And when you look at this picture again, if you can imagine the levels of trauma that was endured during the transatlantic slave trade, that there was a lot of survival, that the fight or flight was always on, that cortisol levels were always high. If we're operating in survival mode, even when we're eating, so we have to complete a task, we have to complete a project. So we're typing on our laptop, or we're recording something as we eat, or in the case of if we're in the car, we're actually digging in the bag or maybe picking up something with the fork, driving and eating the car. It really causes the attention to be diverted into other places as opposed to what were the activity that they were actually engaged in, that has impact over our entire body. The foods that we eat are significant to brain health. And I've put out a few of the things that I enjoy eating every day, every morning, throughout the day. Blueberries, I always encourage people keep a pint of blueberries. They're great for brain health. Walnuts, I get shelled walnuts from the market. Shelled walnuts are excellent for brain health. It has a lot of that good fat, a lot of those good omega 3s that we need for the brain. And also for a good snack, popcorn. Popcorn is a really, really good snack to have. In addition to, you want to make sure you're taking good care of yourself with citrus, right? Some good old vitamin C. And of course, as always, I talk about my primary beverage being water. Water, water, water. And I have a slice of lemon in there as well, too. So when we are cognizant of the things that we're putting in our body, we make it so that we're actually sharper in our thinking. For those of you that report that you're forgetting things easily, and this is not the fix all for that, but a lot of that has to do with the nutritional value of what we're putting in our mouth and how we're consuming that. So I would highly encourage each of us to practice mindful eating, and let me know about how that goes for you. I'm very interested in hearing that follow up. Sleeping. Sleeping is something that was not popular for quite some time. When we think about grind and hustle culture, what it has taught us is that, and then the popular saying, I know in the early 2000s, that we'll sleep when we're dead, that we only have a limited amount of time here, which is very true, that we only have a limited amount of time because we are finite beings in this space. So do all you can. Don't worry about sleep. You'll get sleep later. Well, here's the deal. We were not created to be up 24 hours a day. There are, in fact, 24 hours a day, but we spend a significant time in our humanness sleeping. And the reason we spend a lot of time in our humanness sleeping is because in these unique, divine, wonderful bodies that are very different for each of you that are connected on this live right now, and those that are watching the replay, they require repair. And guess how the repair happens in our body? The repair happens through rest and sleep. So, specifically, when we think about rest and sleep, that was something that I know that you were heard as you were growing up when you weren't feeling well, if you were sick, if you had the flu or something. The order that you were given from your doctor, from your grandparent, whoever was taking care of you, was to go lay down. And we're thinking, okay, lay down, lay down. We're laying down, but I'm feeling better. But it was always prescribed to lay down a lot longer than we felt like was necessary to lay down. The reason that we're often told by practitioners, by people who care for us to rest is again because there's a significant amount of repair that happens when we're actually sleeping. When we think about the brain, and in the brain, it is a complex organ that scientists are still finding new and exciting information around. That there is a process that happens while we're sleeping that can only happen when we're sleeping. And that is when the lymphatic system is activated and actually cleans out toxins in our brain. When we don't allow ourselves sleep, when we continue to work through the night, scroll our phones through the night, watch TV through the night, stay up late through the night. And I understand that these are things that we do, right? These things do happen. But when we create a daily habit, a nightly habit, a habit that's several days from out of the week, what we're actually doing is we're creating um, a space where our brains are storing toxins. The glymphatic system, what it effectively does is it is akin to a broom. And it actually, its job is to, when we go to sleep, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has said adults in between the ages of 18 and 60, around 64, require about 7 to 9, I believe they said, hours of sleep, but 7 to 8 is great. If you can get at least 7 hours of sleep for as an adult, that is excellent. So 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And then for those that are 65 and above, they require a little bit more sleep. And I believe the number is about 9 to 11. And that is because the body is in a different place. However, the body does, in fact, require sleep. And so if the lymphatic system is not able to navigate, and for adults 18 to 64, and generally adults in general, to be quite honest with you, if we're not in the bed, getting to a place where we're actually making sure that our body is powered down from the night. So that's in between 10 and 11 o'clock at night, so that we're actually going to sleep the night before we get up, as opposed to going to bed at midnight, going to bed at 1, 2, and 3 o'clock in the morning, which is the same day that we have to wake up. When we allow our bodies that rest, that sleep in between that 10 and 11 o'clock hour, and there are people that go to bed much earlier, and that's great. And for a lot of them, it's because they wake up earlier. But we want to be in the sleep space 10 to 11 o'clock, like no later than 11 o'clock do we want to actually be asleep. What we're allowing is the lymphatic system to take place, so that all of those toxins that have our brain has absorbed through the day can be cleaned. When those toxins are stored up, what scientists have found is that the same toxin that actually triggers the disease of Alzheimer's, which usually starts with dementia, that they found that element, that toxin specifically for folks who who don't sleep well. Now, again, pointing to this picture, when I think back to this picture, when we look at this picture, if the cortisol levels are always high, if we're always on guard, if we're always looking at what next, and that can also be raised through social media. If we're scrolling our phone, if there's something that's either triggering, something that kind of brings a level of like, what now, to us, that raises cortisol level. What the body needs is time to rest, repair, and get ready to re-energize for the next day. So this is not an indictment, because a lot of this technology is something that has really come into the late 20th, early 21st century. Years before, people would only either have one television in the home or radio in the home. Now people have multiple televisions. People have Bluetooth speakers. We have laptops. We have cell phones. We have a multitude of devices. So there's always something that's pulling at our attention. And even when we get in the car, we have multiple devices when we get in the car. However, the individual goal is that with understanding that as we have evolved as humans, what is still required, eating, sleeping, and breathing, are things that still need to be met. And they need to be met in a way so that our body understands the message that, listen, it's whatever your bedtime is, we are going to prepare our body for bed. How do we prepare our body for bed? We put our phone away, put the phone on vibrate, make sure that there are flashes that are not going on the phone. If we have the television on, make sure that we adjust the screen so it's not bright. Some TVs have different settings where it's a setting where it's not as bright. Turn the sleep timer on so the television is not running all night. And as we get into the bed, what we want to make sure is that we shake the sheets from the day before that we slept in the bed. We don't want to jump in the bed, get under the covers with those skin cells that we shed the night before that we're sleeping. So making sure our pillows are fluffed, making sure that our sheets have been shaken, making sure the comforter has been shaken, that we've showered, that we've bathed. And if you prefer putting on something that smells good, do that. I usually have some green tea. All of these things are letting my body know that we are going to bed. So look at your sleep routine. Look at the way that you go to bed at night. And then also remember that it is actually required because we're looking at longevity, particularly as Black and African Americans disproportionately overrepresent for the number of people that have the condition known as dementia and that develop Alzheimer's disease. And researchers have already talked about the long-term care beds have been built out significantly to adjust for a population of people that are living longer, but living with conditions and disease that do require some type of assisted living management. So to have a good quality of life, please, please, please make sure that you are getting quality sleep, because when we don't, what normally happens? People wake up in the morning, they have not slept well, perhaps groggy, perhaps not engaging with yourself well, perhaps not engaging with your partner or your children well, rushing out of the house, overeating. There are a multitude of then manifestations from this that happens when we don't get proper sleep. Not remembering things that we thought that we should have remembered. These are all the impact of having stored toxins in the brain. So think about if you walk into an area that is walking into a landfill. How long do you feel comfortable in the landfill? I don't even feel comfortable passing a landfill. So that is essentially what the brain is living in. It's living in clutter, is living in a space of not being able to operate at its fullness. Um, Another tip that I would also offer when we think about sleeping and sleep hygiene and good sleep health, to make sure that we're not keeping dirty clothes or unclean laundry in the bedroom. Make sure that the bedroom feels light, feels clean. Is not something that you have to necessarily do a deep clean the night, that when you're getting into bed, but make sure that the space is a space where there's not a lot of clutter, that you don't have paper scattered about. Just do a light little cleanup, but make sure that there are no dirty clothes, there are no dirty shoes that are in your bedroom, because that stagnant energy does, in fact, keep people from having a good night's sleep. So do make sure that you are paying attention to how well you're sleeping and how you actually are preparing to go to bed. And then the third area is breathing. Um, all of these things, again, are a part of the human experience. And so, one of the things that I also discuss with my clients is that, particularly with Black women hold their breath, not even realizing that we hold our breath a lot. And when you look at this picture, you can see why. Again, pass down trauma, not knowing what is going to happen next, being hyper vigilant, always feeling or having a constant belief that if it's got to get done, I need to do it myself. And so I'll breathe, I'll eat, I'll rest when I get whatever task needs to be accomplished. But this is for women, men, non-binary, however it is that you identify. Breathing is critical to life. It is an element, be it artificial or if it's something that we're able to naturally do through our body, that we absolutely have to do. So I want us to practice something that it is a signature modality that I have developed, and it's called 646. And breathing is so critical, and proper breathing is so critical because proper breathing, taking deep breaths, helps to boost our immune system. So when we're thinking about eating, sleeping, breathing, these all have great implications for our brain health. These all have good implications for our body, and they have tremendous impact for our immune system as well. Excuse me. So, we're going to go through this exercise together. So, if everyone will take a moment with me, again, this is a signature modality that I created, and it is called 646. So, what we're going to do is as we still ourselves in the moment, I want for us to just take a moment, just shake your shoulders a little bit, move your head around from side to side, and then come to a place. If you're laying down, if you're sitting up, come to a place where you feel comfortable. I usually ask people if they're comfortable to put your hands on your thighs. Just allow your back to allow it to rest. Allow your hands to rest and start to pay attention to your breathing. And we're going to do this together. So I want you to follow me in what we're doing. If you're comfortable keeping your eyes open, keep them open. If you're comfortable closing them, please close them. And what we're going to do is I want you to follow me in what I'm sharing with you. We're going to slowly inhale through the nose for 6 seconds. We're going to hold it for 4 seconds. And then we're going to exhale through the mouth slowly for 6 seconds. So as we're in our comfortable position, eyes open or closed, wherever you're comfortable, I want for you to now very slowly breathe in for 6 seconds. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I usually have clients go through this exercise 3 times. In the comments, post how you felt after you did that exercise. I've had some really, really interesting feedback on that, but that's 646. That is actually a grounding technique additionally. So if you're beginning to feel overwhelmed in the moment, overwhelmed can look like um, being very frustrated. It can look like lashing out. Overwhelmed can look like wanting to run out very quickly. Overwhelmed can look like not being able to come up with the words that you actually need to say. Overwhelmed can look like um, becoming very upset. Thank you all for sharing exactly how you're feeling. Exactly, exactly. I'm glad that you all like it. I'm glad that you're feeling relaxed. I'm glad you're feeling relieved. I'm glad you're feeling light. These are all excellent, excellent things that you're sharing. And this breathing practice, again, I want you all to know is a signature modality that I created, and it is absolutely phenomenal whenever I share that with clients in large. So we talked about just very briefly how the eating, how the sleeping, how the breathing impacts the brain, the body, and behavior. And so what I do, what I have found is that in my own practice, and again, I stress the word practice because we're going to be practicing, you're going to be practicing to make these changes, is number one, language. It took you however many years you've been on earth to develop the habits and the behaviors that you have. It is going to take time to make these something that are commonplace for you. So, very, very important to understand to give yourself grace. My brain injury actually, and my brain injury actually was the force of change for me. And I do not want anybody to have a brain injury in order to change. So, what I'm introducing to you, number one, always give yourself grace. Always be kind to yourself if you're not doing what you think you should be doing every day. The same way that doctors are practicing medicine, you are practicing change. And what you'll notice around these changes that you begin to practice and make is that it does cost time. The time that I spend in my morning routine, the time that I spend in my night routine, it does cost me time. I don't spend as much time as I used to spend online. It does cost me something, but what the costs are have been much greater in the way that I've been able to pivot in my career, the way that I've been able to impact people, and the way that I've been able to make people aware of exactly what's unseen that's happening around them and the different changes that they make. The confidence is going to go up. My confidence has gone up because I am more aware of Erica. And being more aware of Erica means that I am more likely to make better decisions for Erica. And the commitment to doing it is something that I make a decision around every single day that I am given to live. So, as we prepare to wrap this up, I hope that you will take a quick screenshot of this. Please do take a screenshot of this. I love feedback. Feedback is food for the soul, it helps me grow. I would love to hear one or two lines about what your takeaway from this, and please use the hashtags that are in the comments. Um, you can submit what your thoughts were through the contact form that's shown right here below feedback, which is at thereframebrain.com. Please do let me know. This will give further evidence, again, as we talked about earlier, as to what is being shared and how powerful it is in that sharing. And if you feel like, Erica, I have more than one or two lines, I would love to share through video what I receive from being in this online conversation. Would love a video, 30 to 45 seconds, and you can send that to thereframebrain.com. However it is that you're communicating, if you're doing social media and you're actually going to send through the contact form, please do use the hashtags that are in the comments. And um, I really want to say, I promise you this would not be longer than an hour. I am so forever grateful that you all made the decision to connect with me. Um, I have my second book that is going to be released, Creating and Sustaining the Culture of Wellness. So, this very picture that you see before you will be the book cover as well. It will be available next month in September. And so, be on the lookout for that. But I am here. This is exactly what I do. A new Reframe Brain podcast drops tomorrow. So, do make sure that you are connected so that you can absolutely get be first in knowing what's happening there. But I'm really, really thankful. Creating and sustaining a culture of wellness will go into greater detail what I talked about around eating, breathing, and sleeping, and it moves from what my foundation is in my business as a celebrity wellness lifestyle coach and consultant, is that people want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be believed, and people want to be healed. And so the book goes a little bit more, it'll be a guide actually. The guide goes a little bit more into those four principles and what we talked about. I absolutely appreciate and adore you all. Again, please, on social media, whatever social media you're using, Twitter, Threads. Well, I'm not on Threads, but still spread the love on Threads. Twitter, Threads, um, Facebook, on the YouTube channel, LinkedIn. Please do copy and paste um, the 3 hashtags that I put in, and just whatever resonated with you, please do share that across social media. And again, would love, love, love if you are so inclined um, to share a bit more. Please take a screenshot of this. I would love to hear your takeaways. I really, really would love to hear your takeaways. And you could submit your takeaways through the Reframe Brain contact form. And then again, if you want to do a 30 to 45-second video, please do send that to the Reframe Brain at gmail.com. Thank you so much, Dr. K. Thank you all for your beautiful comments. It's definitely been my pleasure. I appreciate it. Risa said, thank you for an uplifting hour. I'll be practicing mindful eating and breathing. Amen. I really, really want us to live well. I really, really do. And I know that is exactly my purpose. I love you all. Be well. Please be subscribed to the reframebrain.com. Again, take a screenshot. Cannot wait to hear your takeaways, and have an absolutely fantastic rest of your Sunday. And I will be in your inbox with a new episode of the Reframe Brain podcast on tomorrow. Love you all. Be well. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so honored. Bye-bye.